What is up, everyone? Welcome to the finals of the Sin City Open 2025 Premodern tournament. We got two awesome decks to show you. Let's just get into those deck lists. First up, it should come as no surprise if you saw last round's video. We have Flint returning with blue-white Replenish. This is one of the two big boogeymen in the format, at least at the time of recording, because of how hard it is to interact with the Parallax cards, especially when paired with Opalescence. Parallax Tide gets rid of all your lands, Parallax Wave gets rid of all your creatures, and with Opalescence, you can actually use Wave to blink both Tide and Wave to do it all over again. And they're also just big 4/4 creatures. Real nasty stuff. This deck is looking to power out those powerful enchantments with soul lands and also get them in the graveyard for easy access with the namesake of the deck, Replenish. How do you get them in the graveyard, you ask? Well, he is running 3 Frantic Search, 4 Attunement, 2 Intuition, and 1 Factor Fiction. Beyond that, the deck has some interaction in the forms of Seal of Cleansing, which also does work well with Parallax Tide and Parallax Wave, 3 Swords to Plowshares, and 3 Mana Leaks. As for the sideboard, he's got 3 Tisablo's Webs, 1 Wrath of God, 2 Orange Chance, 1 Hydroblast, 2 Blue Elemental Blasts, 2 Abiescence, 1 Swords to Plowshares, 2 Stifles, and 1 Factor Fiction. It's a very powerful list, a very tight list. I'm not surprised to see it doing this well. So before we get in the games, let's see who he's playing against. Next up is Mike with Mono Blue Stiflenought. I do want to note that this is not his actual deck list. This is in fact the list I brought to this event because Mike did not submit a deck photo despite my best efforts to track him down. That being said, I have to imagine this main 60 is pretty close to what he played, as it is very much inspired by the LobsterCon list that took down both the main and side events pretty close to when this tournament happened. I am not showing the sideboard, as while it's likely he does have Parallax Tide, I'm not entirely sure and I don't want to give the wrong impression. So we're just going to go through the main 60 of what the Stiflenought deck is trying to do. As the name implies, there is 4 Dreadnoughts. For this deck photo, I didn't actually have all my copies on hand. I did have to borrow 3 for the tournament, so there's only 1, but the treasure tokens are stand-ins for that. 4 of Stifles, 4 of Vision Charms, and then the rest of the deck is basically just built around counterspells and trying to draw both parts of the combo. So we have 4 of Portent, 2 Chain of Vapors, which function as the only 2 real pieces of removal in the deck, 3 Daze, 3 Opt, 4 Counterspell, 2 Flash of Insight, 4 Impulse, 4 Gush, and 4 Foil. You'll also notice that there is 2 Mishra's Factories. Those are kind of the backup plan for the deck, as well as 16 islands. So yeah, again, not sure what he's running in the side, so we won't get into that, but Mono Blue Stiflenought is definitely the other boogeyman of the format, so it makes a lot of sense that in such a competitive tournament, we have the 2 best decks going face to face. So without further ado, let's get into the games. And away we go. Flint is on the left, Mike is on the right, and before we get into it, I do want to do a quick shout out, a huge thank you to the Sin City event organizers, the Fallen Angels Old School Club. You guys were absolutely amazing. This was such a great event. James was the head of this event and honestly just absolutely killed it. Cannot wait for next year. And thanks again for letting me bring my equipment along and record both the Premodern tournament which we're watching and the Old School event, which is already up on the channel. Alright, looks like Flint will be starting us off with an Adarkar Waste and pass. Mike will just lead off with a island and pass. There's a Flooded Strand. Or sorry, no, a Skycloud Expanse. That art always mixes me up. Alright, we're going to get an Opt here on the end step. Skycloud Expanse and Flooded Strand looking very similar, just in general. Alright, he's going to keep 1 card. Play on island for turn. Does have the Dreadnought. Are we going for it? Alright, play on the Dreadnought. Has the Stifle. Gonna stifle the ETB ability, but there is a Swords to Plowshares. That will get foiled. And is the Dreadnought sticking? It is. Oh no. That is going to be very problematic for Flint unless he has another Swords backup. Okay, there's Frantic Search, and he is indeed frantically searching. Gonna pitch an Opalescence. And a Parallax Tide. Okay. Untapping 3 and can just pass. Alright, we're gonna get in for 12. Flint down to 8. Do you find The answer? He does have a Replenish. That is not going to be necessarily enough. He's going to fetch here. That Parallax Tide not going to be able to deal with the Dreadnought. It will be paired with Opalescence, so it can be a blocker, but that's also still not going to be enough. That's a Parallax Wave. Okay, so that is enough. And suddenly we have a game again. Also, this is going to be into Replenish. Does that wave resolve? I mean, if Mike has another counterspell, that's game, but it doesn't look like he does. He does have a Vision Charm to try and hide the Dreadnought, however. Flint can just use another counter to target the Dreadnought again. Looks like he just has 2 Vision Charms, which is unfortunate. Three cards in hand for Flint. Mike trying to decide what he wants to do here. He doesn't have much, so he's just going to let that resolve. And we are going to spend a counter. Take care of a Dreadnought. Or at least not yet, I guess. Waiting for the attack. Not until he has to. Yep, swing it in. That was a little risky. Mike could have drawn something to interact with the wave. I don't know exactly what would have been. A Stifle, maybe? Alright, trigger does get removed on upkeep. I think we're going to see a Replenish here. Or just a straight out Opalescence. Unfortunately, Mike has used all his counter magic, and he's just going to scoop it. We're going to go to game number 2. Alright, so a quick game 1. Mike just not having good answers to Flint's onslaught of enchantments. Almost getting there very quickly with the turn 2 Dreadnought, but not quite fast enough. Alright, both players now having access to their sideboards. We are going to see a bunch of annuls in Mike's deck now, and we see one in his hand currently. He is on the play here. And I think his best bet is still just to try and go fast. Ooh, and actually I didn't notice it before, but you can see that championship ring up there in the top. That is what they are playing for. It is a Super Bowl sized ring with... I'm not sure they're real diamonds. Pretty sure they're not. But crystals and a survival of the fittest art on top of it. It is truly blinged out, especially in person. It was something to behold. Alright, looks like both players are going to be mulliganing here, so we're going to cut to when we have some keepable hands. Alright, we're coming back in here, and Mike did keep a 6. However, Flint was not happy and is going down to at least 5. Hopefully not having to go any lower than that. This deck does mulligan well, but if you're not seeing any lands, you definitely need to ship it back. And it looks like this will be a keepable 5. Alright. Mike will start us off with just an island and go. Plains go from Flint. Island go. We're going to see a lot of draw goes here. Both players going to be holding up some counter magic. Okay, there's the Sky Cloud Expanse, now having access to blue. Mike having a really beautiful choice in counter spells, by the way. I think those are Judge promos. But just going to pass. No land drop here. Playing it low and slow. It's the name of the game. But if your opponent keeps hitting their land drops, there's another Sky Cloud Expanse. Eventually, you're going to have to do something. Alright, looks like he's just going to pass. Oh, there's an impulse. Flynn deciding if he wants this land drop. He's going to play an Ancient Tomb and pass. A little flooded, it looks like, actually, for his hand. Okay, we are going to Impulse here on end step. I don't see a Dreadnought. Alright. Finds a card he likes. Ship it back. Finds a land for turn. Does have a foil, but no land in hand. Might have a Daze to help get it there, but at the very least has some counter magic. There's an Adarkar Waste. Can tap 4. And there's a Parallax Tide. There's an Annul and a counter spell. Plenty of options. Okay, we're just gonna do the hard counter. And then, yeah, Flint's just gonna pass back. I guess that makes sense. Use as much mana as possible. The only things you're really gonna be wanting to counter in this matchup is enchantments. Flint does have access to swords and the like. Okay, we are gonna gush here. Floating 2 blue. Looks like more islands. Maybe another Annul. Land for turn. 2 blue floating. Can you do anything? I actually don't know if this is an instance where Ike brings in his own tides. Okay, we're gonna Flash of Insight for 0? Or are we gonna tap it for anything? Nope, just for 0. Okay, for 1. No, for 0. Trying to decide if he wants to get any value out of this. He's deciding not to do that. Actually getting a take back. Still has 2 blue floating though. Deep in the tank. He does have the tide and he's gonna play it out. And is letting Flint untap with all that mana? I guess wanting to potentially get a stifle off here. This is risky. Can't you stifle the trigger where everything comes back after the last counter is removed? Letting your opponent untap here is an interesting play. Unless he doesn't have the stifle, he might just have a Chain of Vapor, in which case this makes a little more sense. Now it's Flint's turn to be in the tank. Reaching for that Ancient Tomb. Life totals don't matter too much here as long as you don't drop below 12. Alright, there's a Replenish for his own tide. Do we have... Okay, we have a foil and an island. And yeah, might as well pitch the Flash of Insight, right? Alright. No Replenish for you. Say go. Untap. In response, okay, we are going to do the Chain of Vapor trick here. In response to the trigger, remove all counters, then Chain of Vapor with it on the stack. And there's the stifle he needed beforehand. All right, island for turn. Flint having an ancient tomb. Say go. And Mike just has not found any threats. His opponent has no more lands, except for the ones he can draw, and is still finding them. That being a little flooded proving to be pretty beneficial. Oh, there's a Mishra's Factory. That is a threat. And did decide to pick that. Makes sense. That is another Tide. And we are casting it and targeting both lands. Oh, just one land, I guess. Ooh, that's a little rough. Oh, that is a Flooded Strand. See, I told you guys I get these mixed up. They look so close. Okay, we are going to try and target the Flooded Strands. And Flint is actually going to let this happen. Not cracking them. Alright, one counter left. Mike does have that Stifle. Alright, we are gonna tap 2. Choosing... Oh, we are getting in with the factory. That's what's happening. Okay. Shortcutting it a little bit. Flint gonna pass. Counter gets removed. There's the third Tide. I don't know if he's running 3 or 4 in the sideboard. The list usually runs 2. Okay, gotta get in with the factory. Or sorry, the list usually runs 3. But again, I didn't know his sideboard, so he could have a 4th. Alright, there's a Stifle trigger on the Tide. You do not get your lands back. They're permanently exiled. Flint does have an Ancient Tomb now. But at this point, Mike has so many more resources. Does have a clock. It is a very slow clock, but it is still a clock nonetheless. And I don't know if Flint will be resolving anything the rest of this game. There's a Daze. Get in for 2. Pass to you. Island, pass. There are things like Orm's Chance, it looks like, in Flint's hand. And some other white spells, but no white mana yet, as to speak. Alright, there's an island. Swinging for 2. Pass to you. And I believe Mike still has that Tide, right? So he has one more he can play out. Do we play it out? I don't know if he's got a Stifle or anything, but... Yep, there's the third Tide. Hit both your lands. And pass. Down to 8, 4 turns to go for that factory. The little factory that could. Down to 6. Pass to you. Keep an island in hand to put that foil live. And I think this one's pretty much all locked up for Mike. Yeah, Flint now discarding to hand size. Alright, we're gonna Flash of Insight here. For 8, 10? A lot. Getting to look at X equal to the number of blue cards exiled. Gonna take a Portent here. Seemingly very important. Still no shrimp too, which is kind of amazing. I wonder if he actually took the shrimps out? That would be crazy. Relying solely on Tide control with Mishra's Factory. Is that the play? I actually don't know. I wouldn't think so. But whatever it is, it's working for Mike. Trying to get in for 2. Down to 4. Finds the plains. We're gonna flash it in sight here. I don't know if he's found another stifle. Alright, untap, counter comes off. Looks like he didn't because he didn't take the plains. But he's got so much counter magic up that his swords is not going to resolve anytime soon. Alright, is that another Mishra's factory? Did he find his second one? Or is that just another island? Looks like an island. Alright, he's actually going to opt to shuffle here. And it's just going to pass. I apologize if you're hearing some thudding in the mic noise. Apparently one of my neighbors is breaking down a pallet. And unfortunately I need to record this audio, so I can't wait for them to finish, but they've been at it for a few hours. And I thought they were done, but apparently they're not. So I apologize if you can hear it in the background. If you can't, great. But anyways, Flint now with 2 lands out. And past the turn. On end step, Flash of Insight for 2. Like just looking for a stifle here, I think. Does find something. All the mana in the world. Did find the stifle. No lands for you beyond the 2 you have. Draws for turn. And Flint is actually just going to pack it up here. We're going to go to game number 3. Alright, here we are in game number 3. That second one was a bit of a slog for sure, but that's what these parallax enchantments do to the game. You're not totally out of it, but you're probably out of it. But you might be able to pull ahead or get back into it. I don't know. It creates unfun play patterns. I've said this before. I believe I said this multiple times throughout this tournament. But the parallax enchantments, both of them, Titan Wave, and sure, throw the black one in there too, should all be banned. All right, we're gonna get an impulse or an opt here. Land for turn. Say go. Both players playing with a little bit of quickness, as this is still timed. This is not an untimed final match. There is the possibility that this can go 2 turns and actually end in a draw, resolving in breakers, which would be heartbreaking. Right, 2 for an impulse. Impulse is good. Flint is going to be fetching here while the impulse is happening to help cut down on time, because again, we are only at about 25 minutes in, but considering how long that last game went, there's a very real possibility this one will be a slog as well. Especially since I didn't see a single shrimp from Mike last game, so I'm wondering if he took them out or just got very unlucky, which does happen with the Stiflenought deck. Sometimes you dig 40 cards deep and all 4 of your Stiflenought, or all 4 of your Dreadnoughts are just sitting on the bottom. Does happen. Island for turn. And just passing along. And I do see some action in Flint's hand. There is a wave, a tide. Okay, we're gonna impulse here. In response, Factor Fiction. Alright. Factor Fiction in the Replenish deck is particularly nasty in that you don't want them to have the strong enchantments in their hand, but at the same time, putting them in the graveyard is not so great either. Alright, Flint has 5 cards in hand already. The Foth piles are Factor Fiction, Intuition, Mana Leak, Island, and a Darkheart Waste. And this seems to be the pile Mike is going for. Everything but the Replenish in one. But we'll have to discard next turn. Or do you put the... putting the Intuition and the Replenish together seem bad. I think this is actually pretty close to what I would do. Okay, he's gonna add an island to the Replenish pile. Probably... That is kind of tricky. Looks like he will take the pile with Intuition and Mana Leak, maybe needing a bit more interaction. Alright, Impulse will resolve. A lot of islands. No shrimp. Alright, takes a card, puts him on the bottom. Definitely didn't take an island. I'm not sure what he took though. Alright, untap to Mike's turn. Or... not? What was... You got to see the card, right? Oh. Flint had to discard. That's what it was. Okay. Flint discarding the hand size here. Still no Dreadnoughts. I do actually wonder if they're still in Mike's deck. I would be curious. Okay, he's actually gonna pitch a foil. That says something about the quality of your hand if you're pitching a foil. Alright, there's a Plains return. Tapping 2. 3. Are we going to try an Intuition here? Looks like. Will it resolve? Now we know there's one Replenish in the graveyard so far. Flint likely has another one in hand, although I haven't seen it. Okay, the hard counterspell here. Alright, we are going to Portent. Looks like another Portent, an Island, and an Intuition. Or a Flash of Insight, sorry. Okay, gonna leave him on top like that. Pass to you, draw for a turn. And draws the Portent. Flint being very courteous and leaving the Mana Leak visible. Real bro move. Especially for a finals game. Alright, gonna tap 4. Are we gonna see a... Okay, Opalescence here. The straight Opalescence. Flint knows Mike doesn't have a good way to deal with it beyond Chain of Vapors and counter spells. Getting it in the graveyard does help Flint's game plan though as well. Notably, Opalescence is not a creature itself, it just turns other enchantments into creatures, so this would just be an enchantment that does turn everything Flint plays into creature threats. But is it better in the graveyard? I mean, I feel like you have to. Yeah. There's an annul. And Flint's just gonna pass. Playing the long game here, wanting to have that Mana Leak up just in case. Plays an Island for turn. Portent. There's a Daze. Flash of Insight we know about. Is that another portent? Days here might be fairly relevant. Alright, can leave it like that. Pass the turn. Draw off portent. Alright, Sky Cloud Expanse. I had to double check. That is a Sky Cloud Expanse. Yeah, I gotta visually check by like the little sticks pointing up. Alright, tapping 4. There's a Tide. That's definitely going to get countered. Like looking at this counter spell, I was gonna go ahead and cast it. And Flint just passing the turn. Maybe just trying to hedge his bets for a little bit more mana for that mana leak. Wanted to maybe has a second mana leak up, wanted to have extra counter magic. Or maybe he just doesn't have the replenish at all. He hasn't looked at his cards in a minute. He knows what they are. Alright, we're gonna float 2 blue here to Gush. Draw 2. Land for turn. Has a lot of interaction in Mike's hand. Alright, there's a portent. Discarding... No, okay, he is actually playing it out. Ah, that's right, 2 blue floating. Still 1 blue floating. There's a Parallax Tide. I believe that's the first one he's seen. Now, he can play it out. However, his opponent can mana leak it. Alright. Oh, that's right. He doesn't get to draw it yet. He'll draw it next turn. Did he put it on top? Don't forget to draw for the portent. I think he might have missed his portent draw. Alright, yep. We'll get it. Technically, we haven't moved out of the draw step. Or no new information has happened, so... Alright, there's a Parallax Tide. Does this one resolve? Three mana up still, so a Daze is not going to do it. Looks like we are going to foil here. Pitching that island, and what else? Daze, and yeah. Tide is down. Is this when you go for the Replenish, which I do see now. Flynn does have one in hand. Alright, we're going to flash Insight for 1. Untap. Draw. There is the Tide. Land for turn. Still not a good spot to play out the Tide. Your opponent still has mana leak, mana up, and will have 1 floating if you happen to have a Daze, but I don't think he does. He does have a foil. He could force it through. But no, we're just going to pass. Probably looking to Flash of Insight here on the end step. Alright, there's no Darkheart Waste. Tapping for 4. And the 3rd Tide. Okay, we're going to Flash of Insight here. How many cards are we exiling? It's got to be close to 12. It's a lot. Alright, gonna get to look at a lot of cards. And a lot of camera shake happening too. The unfortunate thing about this venue was that the camera had to be right up against a wall, so if you bump the table, you would also be bumping the camera. Luckily, we were able to deal with the shake for a lot, but oof, yep, we're really, really letting it happen now. I also have to think, we're getting pretty close to time. I know I cut around a lot of the mulligans and I cut out all the sideboarding time too, but clock is running and neither player has done any real considerable damage or has a way to end the game yet. Flint does have that replenish if it can resolve, but we know Mike has a foil, so depending on how this works. Oh. Flint being a good sport again, letting him know that you can see the cards you're looking at. These are all the cards he's trying to put in order. And this is real tough. Like, this is a big pile to try and work around because you're basically setting up a lot of your next turns. Or just trying to decide what card you want to draw first, I guess. It's technically, I guess, not sending your next turns, but we're almost at the point where where Mike is actually arranging his deck past his turn point. I've Flash of Insight for like 30 at one point, where literally after the next two cards, like that, yeah, that's looking real thin. So I think just putting a couple of choice cards on top, okay, that will get countered. That is the card I believe Mike found. Now Flint will have to fire back with the Mana Leak, which will get foiled. No, is choosing to not do it. Okay. Interesting choice here. Maybe just not wanting to take the damage, or thinking I'll save this Mana Leak for another relevant attempt. At this point, the Mana Leak has been out on the field so long. Oh no, we are actually just going to pass the turn. Yeah, Mana Leak's been on the field for so long, I wonder if both players are just ignoring it at this point. Did Flint not remember he had it? I'm sure he remembered he did. Alright, are we trying one more time? Three, 4. Oh, gonna leave a blue open just in case. Are we trying to replenish here? Yes, we are. Now Mike obviously can't let this resolve. But how are you going to go about dealing with it? Looks like he might be trying to opt here first. He does still have a foil, right? I did see that in hand. He's got an island. Okay, yeah, he does have the foil. Okay, so we're just going to go straight to the foil. Pitching a Chain of Vapor and an island. And tap 2, attempt to Mana Leak it. He will pay for the Mana Leak. And that was an interesting point to choose to use that on. Okay, gonna opt. All right. Well, now that the Mana Leak is no longer visible on the table, does Mike try... Okay, we're gonna gush here, floating 2 blue. Does Mike try to go for the tide? He can play out... Yeah, land for this turn. So let's 2 blue floating. Can tide and stifle. Or sorry, tide and chain. I believe he still has a chain up. Does it resolve? Alright, we're going to take those 5. And then chain of vapor. Bouncing it back to hand. Land for turn for Flint. Gonna pay 2, attempt to wave here. Just trying to get something out. Mike says, sure, that's fine. How about another tide? Take all 3 of those. Flint is gonna pass. Mike does find the Mishra's factory. Okay, we're gonna portent here. Find a stifle, it looks like, as well as a daze and some other. Sorry, a flash of insight, not a stifle. And a null. Okay. Mike just gonna pass. Draw off the portent. Flint gonna pass. Counter is coming off the parallax tides. That factory will not get activated as long as that wave is up. Alright, there's a gush, float 2 blue. See some more cards. There's a foil. Land for turn. Tapping 1. Flash of Insight using the blue. Or the 2 blue, I should say, to draw 1. Doesn't even have to look at it because he knows he has to. Island for turn. Alright, 3 for turn. Flash of Insight for 1. Draw 1. Untap. Do we have the stifle? We do. Alright. Do not get those lands back. And I would say we're in garbage time at this point, but this is the last game for the championship for this Premodern Sin City Open tournament. And I'm actually surprised we're not in turns yet. Did I misremember this correctly? Did we actually see a finale of this? I thought we... This might be spoiling it. I thought we ended up going to turns on this match. Okay, we are going to Flash of Insight. Because I remember getting pressure from the bar to shut off the recording and get out of there. But maybe I'm misremembering right. I mean, maybe they finished. I do know who wins. Well, I'm not going to spoil that unless we don't get to a conclusion here and we do actually go to breakers. But as it stands, neither player are having a serious advantage over the other. I mean, Mike has a lot of cards, a lot of interaction in hand. He does have a Mishra's Factory out. But it just takes 1... Oh, there's a Parallax Tide. Alright, well that might be maybe enough. If Flint does have Mana Leak, which he does not, that'd be a good time to use it. And Mike has the Stifle in hand too. Alright. That wave is going to wave goodbye next turn. There's an island. And yeah, I'm pretty confident at this point Mike's just in the driver's seat. Yep, we're gonna get in for 2. Down to 12. wave will go goodbye. Mike just saying, this is what's in my hand. I wonder, I think we are actually... Are we in turns now? I think Mike was maybe making the case for, hey, do you want to call it a game? Alright, get a land for turn. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to see dice on the field, but I feel like we're in turns. Alright, gonna swing for 3, down to 10. Pass to you. Flynn does have a land. It's a flooded strand. Stifle. Flint knowing about the stifle as well. Alright, we're gonna animate both factories. Swing for 4, pass to you. There's a lot of swords. Is Flint not confident he has a white source in the deck to find? No, I think that... Is that just end of the game? We didn't see a dice, so I think that is... it? The finals ends in a draw. We go to breakers. Looks like that's the conversation that's happening at the table, maybe trying to decide if someone wants to concede. Mike does definitely have the upper hand, but there's a lot of interaction there. Yeah, both players showing their hands, and I think this is going to a draw. All right, well, that is going to be the finals of the Sin City Open Premodern Tournament. But who won? Well, it turns out Mike actually had the better breakers and ends up taking down the full tournament. That was a bit of an anticlimactic conclusion to a very drawn-out match, but Mike, congrats on taking it down. Hopefully you rep that ring in the next Sin City Open. And yeah, thanks to everyone for watching. If you've made it this far, make sure to like, subscribe. It's the best way to find your way back here for more Premodern videos. And if you want to support the channel beyond just subscribing, commenting, all that stuff, there is actually a Patreon link in the video description. You'll see the Patreon names up here on screen. That money goes towards travel expenses like going to this tournament, buying gear, specifically for this one was a gear that fit in a suitcase, and also just making more Premodern videos in general. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.